Today, my guest is Matthew Laborde. Matthew is a commercial real estate broker in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with him about leveraging social media to stand out in commercial real estate. But first, a quick reminder if you like the show CREPN Radio, you can like, you can share, you can subscribe, and as always, you can leave a comment. We'd love to hear from our listeners. Also, I want to remind you if you'd like to see how handsome our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, and that's Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. With that, I want to welcome my guest. Matthew, welcome to CREPN Radio.
Darren, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to our talk today. But before we jump into the topic, if you could give the listeners and myself a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I'm 29 years old. I got into the commercial real estate business when I was 19. I was working for free just to learn the business and got licensed and dove headfirst into it. And just worked day and night, would sleep at the office, and worked for one of the bigger firms in the state of Louisiana, and became the second in production over there when I was 22. And by the age of 27, the day after my 27th birthday, started my own firm. So I'm actually, did I say I was 29? I'm 30 now. I'm 30 now. I just turned 30. So
Well, happy birthday there.
Thank you. I'm in denial a little bit.
Yeah, well, trust me, the numbers get bigger and faster. I mean, they come by faster. Well, that's great. Congratulations. I don't know that I knew you were in your own firm. But I probably heard that before, but that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
You've had, what's the name of your firm?
It's called Elifin, Elifin Realty. And we have 10 people now, and we are growing all kinds of commercial real estate brokerage, basically in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Got it. All right. Well, today, my hope is that we can dive into your success using social media.
Yes.
And to kind of lay the stage here a little bit, I'd like to know, how engaged were you on social media before you got into commercial real estate?
Right. So before I got into commercial real estate, I was 18. And I had dabbled in Facebook when I was in high school. And then early on in college, 18, 19, I completely withdrew from every platform. So I was not in social media at the time I joined commercial real estate.
Okay. And I was going to say, I'm trying to think, I don't know how old all the platforms are now. It seems like almost a blur, but I'm thinking 10 years. I mean, it was around 10 years ago, right? Facebook and all that. I mean,
Facebook was definitely around.
Okay.
Facebook was the big thing.
Okay. I was going to say, it seems like it's just been around forever now, but I was going, somewhere back there, it was kind of like a brand new thing.
It was new. It was cutting edge at the time. But no, I really did not embrace social media until, I would say, probably 5 years ago. And then I really only embraced it for my, social and civic initiatives. Like if I'm doing something in the community, like I can promote that on social media and I guess influence people and get people like rallied around a cause. So that's what kind of drew me to social media. But I didn't really embrace it for business until about a year and a half ago.
Okay. So let's talk about that. What changed?
What changed? I started listening to a ton of Grant Cardone and most recently Gary Vee. And, it's really just all about being out there. And I took the plunge. The first post about business is always the hardest, but I took the plunge and got great reception, and then it just kind of, got momentum from there.
All right. So when you say your first post, you're a commercial real estate broker. were you advertising at a space for lease? Were you advertising, or when I say advertise, what kind of information were you putting out there?
So my early posts were more about really what was going on with me as a 27, 28-year-old starting a new business and being really authentic and open about it. So the good things, the bad things, just kind of letting it all out there. And I think it resonated with people. And the response and like people rallying around me was awesome. And it encouraged me to do more.
And at that point, when you first started, were these primarily a friend network, or were these business people that you had connected with? Who was seeing your post?
Primarily, it was a friend network. And of course, some of my friends are business people. But, in the last 2 years, I've adopted the policy of just connect with everybody. Um, and so, and so it's more of a business network now, but than it was when I started posting about business.
Got it. So your first post, I mean, you're starting a new business, so that's always kind of an exciting kind of a
Scary.
story. Well, I mean, as the viewer, I'm thinking
Yeah.
about like why people would be engaged, like, holy crap, can you believe what happened now? Did you see that?
Right. Right.
Um, and I think that's something I'm trying to think of the things that are compelling for me to, that I follow, I guess, if you will. I would think a story has some sort of you want somebody to win, or I mean, or if you're
Exactly.
somebody, if somebody's going through something, that's an interesting,
It
uh,
pulls you in for sure.
yeah, yeah. So in those posts, were they kind of like short post, or were they like more of a lengthy nature? Can you describe
Yeah.
pictures,
Yeah.
video? Was it text? What?
I think for the most part, early on, it was text and pictures. So it might have been like a graph of like my commission income for that year, right? With the numbers taken off, but just like the ups and the downs, right? Showing how commercial real estate can be, where you have some months you make a lot of money, and some months you don't make quite as much money. um, and so that sort of thing. Pictures of signs, just as the company came and over that first year or two, it actually becomes a company and a real thing. Uh, just the process of that. So it was mostly text and photos.
Got it. Well, it sounds like, I mean, your journey. I mean, it's basically what I'm hearing you say is that this is the journey of an entrepreneur. Uh, One of your friends that's going out there, and he's swinging for the fences and making it happen, and
Yeah.
and so got it.
Yeah, and I got the idea sort of because before that, I had I was with my other firm, right, doing great in commercial real estate. But I set this extracurricular goal to be in a major role in a musical in front of 100 plus people within 12 months, and I documented it all on social media. I had never acted, danced, or sang in public sober prior to that, making that goal. And so that got so much attention. People would come up to me and say, "Man, you're just like, you motivate me to go sing in the next musical or whatever." And I'm horrible at singing and dancing and maybe not acting, but yeah.
So
So it was very interesting posts and content.
so back up here one second. So you're at the prior firm, and you've got this goal that you want to be in a musical. Is that
Yeah.
and where did that? Back up here. Explain that a little bit here.
So my little brother was in a musical, and I saw it and I loved it. And I was never into music. I had no musical aptitude. I was never into that in high school. I was into sports and all this kind of thing. But I said, look, I don't want to be 60 years old and wish I would have like taken a shot, and tried it. So I took singing lessons twice a week. I took ballet class. I took hip hop dance class, and I took acting boot camps, and I was in 5 shows within a
Wow.
year.
Wow. Is that like community theater or what were you?
Yeah, community
Okay.
theater where if you have a pulse and you're a guy, they will put you on stage
That's
no matter
awesome.
what.
That's awesome. So again, you have a story here. There's a self challenge, and you're documenting this process, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay. So your start on social media sounds like there's a story to it more than just, and I think that's kind of what I'm kind of curious about, because I think a lot of people, and myself included, without a story, feel like we're just like posting, or I say we. I'm going to put the myself on here, but feel like I'm posting random stuff that don't have any kind of a through line, kind of a thread.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
absolutely.
So now that you've been on stage, you've documented your journey, you've got followers who I'm assuming are primarily friends at that point, but they like I said, they're in business as well, so they're engaged in their platform or whatever, and if they like it, they like one of your posts, their network sees it, so all of a sudden you become this recognized person, this
Yeah,
entity.
yeah, more or less.
Um, and then so there's this cross pollination based on what you're posting. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense? All right. And as people become curious and interested in what you're doing, then they become more and more attuned to who you are and what you do when you're not doing these things. Is that fair to say?
That is definitely fair.
Okay. So now that you're a musical, you're an accomplished actor in a musical, uh, you've got your own firm, you've been documenting this story, you've again, I mean, clearly you've demonstrated being vulnerable. I
Right.
mean, going from a guy that, admittedly can't sing or dance, and you're going to be in a musical,
Yeah.
and now you've started a firm, and you've shared all of the ups and downs, even as much as your commission graph up and down kind of thing. So vulnerability is clearly not been an issue with you. Um, what would you suggest to people that have um, not done that? I mean, because I think that there's that guard that I think a lot of us have, that doesn't want to show our warts, or what we look like
Hmm.
when we're not our best, I mean, because I think that's what one of the issues I think with social media is, how much of it's a highlight reel.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the guard is what's holding you back. I think people want to see authenticity and uh, whatever that is. And maybe that's great and maybe that's all wins, and that's good too. Um, but just not being afraid to show what is exactly happening, I think, is key to connecting with people and having it resonate, and it having a following.
No, that's definitely. I mean, I've always heard that, being vulnerable, and I think that's that compelling thing. If you are, if you're tuned into a story, or you identify with somebody's story, it's that, like, God, I've been there, kind of thing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, or and just even whether it be laughing at yourself. I'm assuming that your travels through this musical weren't all pitch perfect, or
No,
no.
definitely not pitch perfect. Uh, no, I mean, I posted everything from me and if people go to my Facebook, me in a purple leotard with a lily pad on my head in Little Mermaid, or or me. I had this challenge where, no matter when, no matter where, if somebody asked me to sing in public, I had to do it. And I based that off of my first audition was horrible. It was like a train wreck. I was so nervous. So I made this challenge to my Facebook following. If you, no matter when or where, and in this industry event, we have 800 commercial real estate professionals, lenders, insurance people, brokers. One of my colleagues was upstate on stage speaking. He asked me to sing in front of this whole group, and I did it, and that
All
was on
right.
Facebook. So
So do you have a go-to song when you're in that challenge, or is it
no,
what would you
no,
like me
that
to
challenge
sing?
is over, by the way, Darren. So
No, no, no. No, no, not gonna do that. I was just curious if you had a go-to number that you would sing, or if you had
You know,
just whatever they would put out
if I
there
had
for
to
you.
pick something, it would be "If Ever I Would Leave You," which I can't even remember who sings it uh, now, but it's a deeper voice song. I guess I was a little bit better at singing that.
All right. Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, again, the whole vulnerability thing there. I mean, you really put yourself out there, and you got this connection. So you've gone from somebody that disavowed social media to where you got in, and not only did you get in, were you immediately posting this stuff, or was this because you said like what, a year and a half?
This
Was
was
it
kind
something?
of like just easing into it, you know.
Okay,
It was a like a it kept I kept posting more and more.
okay. So at any point was the motivation to do the musical part of a bigger plan as far as like a way to entertain people online, or was this more of like two separate things that just merged?
It just merged. They just
Okay.
merged. It's a very therapeutic thing, you know, and it's a
Mhm.
very you realize you become a lot more comfortable with yourself when you do that, and that whole theater process was a exercise in becoming more comfortable with yourself. So it had that effect as well.
Got it. Got it. All right. So clearly you've established yourself on social media, and are you primarily on Facebook, or you, or what's your
Facebook and LinkedIn are my two go-to platforms.
okay? Do you post the same thing on both platforms, or you
I, I post the exact same thing on the same on both platforms, except for personal stuff. So I wouldn't post things like the musical on my LinkedIn, and I won't post like, when I take a picture at Thanksgiving and post it with my girlfriend, I'm not going to post that onto LinkedIn, just Facebook.
all right? But if there's a new building you're excuse me, leasing or listing or whatever, would you go both places?
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything that has to do with business or community involvement, it's going to go both places.
Gotcha. So let's talk about the types of post you're doing now, without a musical to do or a challenge. What are
Yeah.
you in just a day to day business? Uh, what kind of things are you posting?
So the things I post now are sometimes it's thoughts on brokerage and the brokerage community. Sometimes it's thoughts on technology. Sometimes it's community involvement, and other things is like advice. So we'll post some videos. We started posting a lot of videos where I'm answering questions. Some of these are questions that people sent to us or asked us. Some of these are questions that we made up or that we get often from clients. And then we just answer them. Our marketing guy, Chase Weatherly, he asks us the questions and we answer them. And we chop it up into a nice little video, put some headers on it, and post it.
Gotcha. Do you have? Is there any kind of a plan to it? I mean, do you have? Is there like a library of questions you've got in the queue, and you kind of work your way through them, or is it instantaneous? Is it? Um,
So we'll just look if we put 10 questions together and then we'll shoot a video. And that video might be, 20 minutes long. We take that video and we chop it up into clips per question, and then we put the headers on it. We might take the text, the transcript from that video, write an article based off of it, post it on our website, and then we'll just post on social media those individual questions. We'll post on YouTube the big clip,
Gotcha.
the
And
full.
you'll the text then from the dialogue you'll convert into a post for your website.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
gotcha.
Hmm.
So and in that you're leveraging the platforms, social media platforms, Facebook and LinkedIn, as far as the video, the short clips, and then
Absolutely.
the longer one you'll post, or longer text post you'll put on your website? Is that kind of the
Exactly. Exactly. For
okay?
SEO purposes,
Sure, sure,
so it has the keywords.
gotcha. And speaking of keywords, is there a lot of planning that you do prior to your video? I mean, are you doing a search to find out which keywords are resonating and what words you want to make sure that you're addressing? Is there
There's a
some
little,
strategy?
yeah, there's a little bit of that, but more so we're trying to think of what our customers are asking. So what, we're talking to people all day, every day, and we get questions. And when we get a good question that we think a lot of other people have, or we notice coming up a lot, try to write it down or send it to our marketing director. And that becomes the questions that we use on the video.
Gotcha. And are you branding these any special way? Is it just Matthew Laborde, or is this your under your firm Elephant, or how are
So we've
you?
kind of got a system, kind of a machine built out to do it for myself, and now we're starting to do it for our agents at Elephant. Um, and so it's done through the firm, and we'll post it through the firm, and then I'll share it on my personal page. The one exception to that is during the summer we did something a lot of people liked is we did this thing called hashtag intern questions. So I had an intern that asked literally 100 questions a day. I mean, this guy is so curious. He's 19. He's going to take over the world, and he had so many questions, just like a sponge, right? And I listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk,
Mhm.
and he talks about a strategy of not content creation, like not maybe like starting a podcast, which you find time for, Darren, but a lot of people would say like, I've got too much going on, and it takes time to do.
Right.
Um, so he talks about content documentation. So basically taking things out of your day that you already do and just turning on a camera, documenting it, and posting it. So Paul already asked a ton of questions. I was giving these incredibly profound answers. um, and so one before one question, I was just like, Paul, hold up, let me videotape this. I posted it, hashtag intern questions, and it's been like a hit. This guy is a national celebrity. I mean, people stop me when I go to conferences and say, "Hey, I love your intern questions." I'm like, thank you. But but yeah, that was so that's a little exception to. I post that on my personal page, but everything else usually goes to the company.
Got it. And frequency, is there a designated frequency to this, or is it how strategic are you in the frequency?
So we try to do as much as possible, but as a company, we see it as a failure if we didn't post at least once a day. Um, we're trying to get that up. If you count one post per platform as one post, then last week we probably did about 99 posts, and it varies between about 40 and 100 posts through the company
Got
per
it.
week.
So you're clearly, that's heavily involved. I mean, there's a regular frequency. It's not just a matter of you posted one and
No.
you're done. And do you have a specific person in the firm that's in charge of that?
Yeah, we have this guy Chase that is our marketing director that is just incredible. And so this guy is a machine in himself, and he takes care of all of it and makes us look good in post.
Got it. So you've gone from posting your vulnerable moments. Now you're regularly posting professional things, and it sounds like you essentially created a brand with a hashtag intern uh, thing there, and so you've got some um, notoriety. People are seeing this, and you've got a following in that. So my next question would be: so you're doing the marketing, you're being recognized on social media. Can you track or identify the activity, the results, the sales that are attributed to this? Is there anything that you can attach to that?
Yeah. So I will track the sources of my deals, and it's very interesting. So if you look at it and you look at the source, one of the categories being social media, maybe about 5% is social media. Um, but if you look at, since I started posting this category of referrals, and we call it other referrals, because it's not people we've done business with before, it's just people we know that are referring us business. That's going to like shot up to like 30%.
That's huge.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. And can I directly say, hey, it's because they saw my Facebook post that they're referring me? No. However, the likelihood of that, you can pretty much tell that it's,
Strong correlation there with.
yes, very strong correlation.
Are you spending money in other ways to advertise? Are you doing print and yellow pages, and are you doing any cable TV or radio or?
So the one thing, so besides our signs, we go heavy on signs, right? Because commercial real estate company, a newer firm, we're 3 years into the business. So we spend a lot of money on signs and having big signs on our properties. Besides that, we'll advertise, we'll do a little bit of events, some interesting events around town and sponsorships, and then we'll sponsor, or we'll advertise in the business report. So our local business publication, we've basically hugged as tightly as we can, because that's our target audience, just perfectly, right? So so that's where we advertise.
Got it. Um, Looking at my questions here. On the source of the deal, is there? Do you guys have like a specific budget, or let me ask you this way? For somebody that hasn't started yet in utilizing social media, what would you uh, what would you expect, or what would you suggest to somebody that's getting started, or saying, okay, gosh, I'm convinced, Matthew's had great success. I don't know if I'm going to go do a musical, but I'm going to get on social media. And they were going to start and regularly post and, like you said, document their, I forget how Gary said it, content documentation. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to start documenting my day. I'm going to start posting regularly. How long would you suggest that somebody, expect it to take? Because I think that one of the things I've seen in business a lot of times is that there's this sense of like, well, I spent the money, I didn't get the results, you
Hmm.
know. And I know specifically with in the old days, print media or print advertising, or even a sales, um, campaign or something like that. You do one mailing, and well, it didn't generate any business. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like, well, I don't think you really understood the program. So, what would you if you had to give some advice to somebody that was looking at doing this? What would you give as far as advice goes?
As far as timing.
Yeah, time to commit to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Time to commit to it. So I would say that there is no doubt in the world that it works. Okay. So if you're doing it and you're not seeing results, it's probably the way you're doing it. So if you just rewind the podcast, focus on being authentic, focus on giving value to your customer, then you're going to be successful. And so just keep it up and post more. So I don't see there any way that it couldn't work at this point in time if you're doing it right. So just keep doing it and don't question it, and make it a part of your daily routine. Don't spend too much time on it, right? Find that part of your day that is, not confidential client communication. Obviously, can't talk about which restaurants opening up where, what price of the deal you're negotiating is, but there's got to be some part of your day that you can document and you can post about. And maybe it's an intern asking you questions. Maybe it's another thing we've done in the past is we'll review our sales every week, um, like the sales in the market that we're in, and I've got an app on my computer where I just pull it up and I'm looking at the sales and scrolling through it, and it's videoing me with the webcam. And it's a split screen. If you go to our YouTube page, you'll see it, and I'm just talking about those sales. And as a commercial real estate professional, I need to review those sales, right, to be on top of my market, right? So it's something I need to do anyway. I'm just doing it and I'm filming it now and posting it. So
And are
it's
these
very
just
little
sales?
extra time.
Are these sales that your firm is doing, or is this the region, just all of commercial real estate sales?
What we do is all of um, all of the sales in our county.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
we'll talk about them all.
Gotcha. Um, what about budget as far as money spent? What would you recommend somebody consider? I mean, are you a fan of just post? Are you a fan of doing the boost your post, or any of that kind of stuff? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so for the most part, all of our posting is organic reach, meaning not paid. So we do some paid advertising every once in a while, really just to see if it works and see how we can target people. But for the most part, tried and true is just posting, and you really don't need to spend money, especially on LinkedIn. The reach on LinkedIn is phenomenal.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. If we could, I would like to shift gears here.
Okay.
Um, as I mentioned to you before we started recording, by day I'm an insurance broker, and in insurance we work with our clients to manage risk. And there's a couple of different strategies we consider when we're managing risk or doing risk management. The first is we ask you, is there a way to avoid the risk? Um, is this necessary? If we must, engage in that practice, and we ask, can we minimize the risk? And if we find out that we can't minimize it, we can't avoid it, then we look to insurance to see if we can transfer the risk. And so recently, I've been asking my guests if they can identify what they consider to be the biggest risk. And just for clarification, I'm not necessarily looking for a quote insurance related answer,
Right.
but more of just biggest risk.
Yeah.
And so, if I could ask you, Matthew Laborde, what is the biggest risk?
The biggest risk. So I'm going to stay on topic for this one, and I'll speak to the biggest risk for business owners and agents, right? In general, especially for I would say, the veteran agent, right? The more mature agent, the older agent, right? And the older business owner. Not engaging in social media is a huge risk because it's this wide open field that you might, as the veteran, right? You might have the capital to invest, to hire people to do this for you, right? But if you don't believe it, that it's can help your business, and if you don't take the time to understand it, then you're going to miss a huge opportunity and open it up for a younger generation like myself to come in and take market share. So I'd say that's a huge risk that you need to consider.
I love it. No, and I think you're spot on there. It's the you got to look to who's the next generation of buyer, and if they know you're not afraid of being in a musical, and they don't know the other
That's huge,
guy,
right?
I think you've got a definitely a leg up on that. So that's great.
There you go.
So, Matthew, before we wrap up, where can the listeners go if they'd like to learn more or connect with you?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, Matthew Laborde. I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They can also, I would encourage them to follow our company pages on both Facebook and LinkedIn. That's Elifin Realty, ELIFIN Realty. You can also go to elifinrealty.com.
Awesome. Matthew, I can't say thanks enough for taking the time. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, learned a lot, and hope we can do it again soon.
It's been a pleasure, Darren. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You got it. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.